as normal Fulani people, so that they can cross the road. And about 6 of them have been captured this evening, and then have been killed by these vigilantes. So far, over 14 of them are dead along Lavun. So the issue is not about what government is not doing; is the power that the state government has. You don't have police. You can't even recruit. Last about 3 or 4 months ago, we did a special vigilante recruit in Mina called the Special Vigilante Corps, because I'm sure you know about 3 or 4 months ago how some of these thugs were disturbing the streets of Mina. Today, they are all gone. About 178 of them have all been captured, been arrested, they're in prison. Now that's the extent which you can go. You can't do some of these things, because even if you organize the vigilante groups, you cannot procure arms for them. So it's also an inefficiency on the side of the government. If you guarantee this community policing, or you pass a law to say, oh, okay, community policing can now take place, you will now notice that the governors have powers so that they can do something. If you're afraid of being used, they can use it for political reasons. You put a caveat on the law and say these guys can only do this A, B, C, D, and that's all. They cannot be seen doing political activities, just like the army. But their hands are tied. There is very little they can do. And another thing that Ivan talked about is these farmers not having access is actually very, very unfortunate thing, to be honest, because it has greatly, affected the production. Even last year, 2020, 80% of is it 2019 or so, 80% of people that went to Hajj in major states were farmers. Last year, unfortunately, most of them couldn't produce anything meaningful because of this insecurity, especially those situated around Zone C axis, where these, like people in Shiro, I'm not even sure if they go to farm at all again. So we need to be calling on the necessary bodies. The military is understaffed, the police is understaffed, the Navy is understaffed, the Air Force is understaffed. And until and unless we're able to solve that problem, we can only keep moving in circle with this issue. Because at the end of the day, there's very little the governors can do. You keep every day, the governor has visited the president, I think, more than 10 times on this issue. He has been to office of the chief of army staff. Some time ago, the chief of army staff said to him, send men down. But after few operations, they will again, recall these military people, say, oh, they have another operation somewhere. They have another operation in the south. They have another operation in the east, and they keep recalling them off. And sometimes, even when they want to recall them off, you see these villagers crying, because once the policemen or the security men disappear, that's all. These bandits have got a field day. So it's the situation that the government finds itself. It's a very complicated situation, a very difficult situation. But then, what can we do? Aside, empowering these vigilantes, it's not like you have a law back you that you can procure arms for them. And then some of these vigilantes are ready to work, like those ones in Zone A, and when you say they've never actually have this, they've never crossed to Zone A. This is the third time they will be doing it. The first they tried, they did not succeed. The second they tried, they did not succeed. And even this one, inshallah, they will not succeed, because in fact, what they are doing them now, I think, is more than what they did to them in the last two occasions. Because if you call anybody from Lavumbi Aziz now, all their vigilantes are actually in the bush. They're looking for this bandit, and some of the few ones that actually ran away were the ones that were sighted along Lambata axis, attacking all the villages, along the route. And I'm sure you've also heard when they said Minasuleja was blocked this evening. It was those bandits that ran away that actually crossed. They were sighted crossing, but they were panic. Everybody got panic and fear, So it's not like they operated there actually. But like I said, honestly, and I'm sure Ogabla Aziz will agree with me, the only solution to some of these issues is you localize this fight. If either you talk about community policing, or you find a way of empowering these vigilantes somehow, where they can also carry these machines, because they're actually willing to fight. but they don't have the necessary equipment. Now, this is what we're going through. And as for the humanitarian aspect that Oga Blaziz talked about, to, to be honest, whatever you can give to these people, if you're not returning them back to their houses, back to their farms, you are absolutely doing nothing. Even if you give them ₦1 million every day, as long as they're not in their villages, they're not going to their farms, they can never be happy. And I think we should all channel our energies towards what can we do to all take them back. So that we can start calling on the attention of the federal government to at least, grant some sort of laws that will enable state governors have powers to fight these things. Because they don't have military, like I said earlier, they don't have the police, they don't have the navy, they don't have the air force. They are only left with local vigilantes. That's as far as they can go. So this is the biggest challenge state governors are facing.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to cut you, sir.
Yeah.
We have Yaks here. Maybe he can speak for just 2 minutes, because we have a lot of people who wants to throw questions and say something.
Okay.
Yaks, over to you, please.
Okay. Good evening.
Yeah, evening, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So I was far away from my phone, but I listened to Abdulaziz, and the picture he paints is actually a very scary one. It's very, very scary. And then what he said is a fact. We have to get ready when it comes to opening centers where we are ready to welcome the people from the village, and then make provisions for them. IDP camps. We just have to get ready for this, because from all indication, we are not ready for this. The little gains we are getting now is just a matter of time before these guys are overstretched. The vigilante guy, just a matter of time, because as Abdulwaki said, what are you using to fight these guys? They're not much. So they come once, they come the second time, they come the third time, and they will keep coming back until they run these villages over. So, but one thing, while we are waiting for the federal government and then these guys are doing their best, one thing I think we should do in Niger State is keeping database of all these attacks. Is very, very important. If we gather data about all these attacks, what I did this evening was to gather data a little from the news I've read, and I gathered over 23 communities or villages have been attacked within the last 4 days in Zone A. I didn't put Sahora and I didn't put a whole lot of those places in Mashigu. Over 23.
No, actually, about 42, actually.
Okay, so you have 42 communities being attacked in Niger State. And what I did was, okay, all these communities, can we get to the people who live in this community to say, what time did these guys actually arrive in that community? Because one thing I learned from the street, and I don't think that is true, but one thing I learned was these guys, they don't go to the village to attack in the night because they don't understand the terrain that very much. They go in the morning or in the afternoon. But it is the data that will actually verify that. So what I did was, okay, these communities, what time did they come? What are the casualties on the side of the villagers? And then what are the casualties on the side of the bandits? How many women were raped? How many were kidnapped? All these data have to be gathered consistently. If we do this, and then even if we're not getting the right help for now, I think when the time comes and we have data, we can make effective policies, effective decisions that I know that will ensure that we get a quick success on this. So it's just very, very sad. So it's very, very saddening, this guy, because this is going to, I don't know how long this is going to be here with us, and I don't know. We just have to get ready with the IDP camps in every local government. In Zone A, we already have that in the northern part of the country, of the state. In Zone A, we just have to get ready with the IDP camps and then get ready to receive people from the villages. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yaks. Mr. Abdulbagi, I'm sure you've heard a little from him too.
Yes. I was actually interested in what Yak's opinion would be, because he has been very, very objective in his discussions all the time.
Okay, sir. Engineer, sorry, son of Yusufu, you've been requesting for mic, and I'm sure you have something to say. Please, 3 minutes. 3 minutes is not much. Please just give us something.
Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. I've been listening with keen interest with respect to everything the speakers have been saying with respect to challenges in banditry and terrorism in Niger State. But you see, my feeling towards all these things is this way. We continue to talk about problems. We talk about the challenges that this banditry team we keep facing with and all of that. But I feel it's like these problems, these challenges are obvious. They have been the same thing over and over, happening either in Shiroro, either in Kagara, either in Zamfara, Sokoto, and other states that have been ravaged with this unfortunate experience. I feel the time now is for us to talk about the solutions, the way out. Everybody needs to come, the government, the people, whoever, everybody needs to come on board to look at how do we do this thing. Because from what my brother Abdul Baki just said, in a way, he tried to give, I think it's an impression that he has given me. I don't know if other people have the same impression, that the state government is handicapped to this problem. They have been trying their best from his words, but then again, it isn't doing anything. Now, my question here is this. When you look at what Ibrahim, I think, said, and Abu Amal and one other person that speak, at least the last 3-4 speakers, when Lucho asked them what has the government done enough or not, and they gave their own response. For me, I feel, in a way, I would see categorically clear that the government hasn't done enough, and for one simple reason. When you look at this thing, I think I saw in the news earlier today when I think the governor, I don't know if it was the governor, but from the handle of the local government and whatever commissioner, when he said that the government are looking at the options of introducing kinetic and non-kinetic technology and all of that. When you look at the thing, the government, federal, state, hasn't really looked at this problem in a holistic manner, in my view. When you look at it, there isn't a sustained strategy. There isn't an obvious strategy that the government are using. Today, you see the army or the air force bombarding Zamfara. Before you know it, these guys, they move around, they live there, they come back to a safe haven, probably to come to Niger, rest, re-strategize themselves and all of that. Today's world, when you look at these things, technology has taken over the world today. You know, so it has solved problems. IT has been bringing solutions to all of these things. This thing, I don't know if we have anybody that has a background in geography here. Probably he might say a little, because I'm just going to speak on the little knowledge that I have. Because I'm a graduate of chemical engineering and I have a master's in disaster risk management. And I think in one of the core courses we do in the master's classes, we did remote sensing and GIS. There's geographical information system. Now, those type of systems are being used to track movement, satellite images. Like what they normally do is you can have a satellite image of this movement of these guys, because they have a particular way system of movement. Probably when the attacks also come in, just like this guy was saying, or the last speaker was saying that these guys have been doing attacks at least to 4 different communities. Now it means that they have a particular system in which they attack places. When you employ remote sensing with GIS, it helps you to map out how they move, the pattern of their movement. Whenever they are being attacked, how do they take refuge? How do they come out? When do they come out? When do they move from one place to another? How do they move? Do they move in group? Do they move in batches? All of these things. Now we're in the world where you don't even need to go to the war front with them, with personnel. We have technological, what do they call this thing? Oh my God, armed drones today that you can send them, do all these things, handle a lot of these things, a lot of these problems. You see, sometimes it baffles me again when we talk about banditry, we talk about Fulani people. There is something that I want to ask today. Do we really realize that even the Fulani people are, in fact, even the Fulani people are oh my God, I missed it. are victims of this same banditry. Because basically, dominantly, these guys rustle cows and all that. The Fulani people rear animals and all that. And today, all their cows are gone. So I'm wondering which Fulani is doing this thing. Because you have a lot of Fulani that doesn't even have cows, again, to rear, to move around, to do whatever. You understand? So basically, what I'm trying to say is this: we need to look at having a well-planned strategy, a sustained one. That's something that would go a long way in solving this problem, rather than just having to do vigilantes tomorrow. Bad vigilantes go back home, recruiting these, like we don't have a focus, we don't have a plan on how to deal with this thing. And this whole thing has a lot to it. I think some time ago, Abdulbaji was talking about is it this market dairy this in the opening in these 4 hectares of land, I think somewhere around Jinsi, where they're going to start doing it. Is it Dano or something? I can't remember. But like he was talking about the strategies, the provisions that are going to be made there, where you're going to have hospitals, schools, and all that for Fulanis that live around such communities and all of that. Now, these are all the things that we're talking about. By the time you give them a certain sense of belonging, you understand, like trying to bring about issues of education, issues of moral. Back in the days when you look at a typical Fulani man doesn't even eat outside. When a Fulani man eats, he turns his back, he doesn't even face, he doesn't like to eat in front of people. Now today's Fulani is someone that can even hold a gun, take alcohol, drink beers, follow women and all. So when you look at it in the moral perspective as well. Like there are a whole lot of things that is not adding up. The issues of lack of education, the issues of be of it, is it Islamic education, Western education, so be it. And at the same time, again, we need to do more in a society because, like for example, let me give you an example of these issues of Yahoo and all of that. We accommodate wrong things in the society today. I remember growing up, when in our area, growing up in Niger, you see that when you're doing something wrong, maybe something that has to do with maybe all these small stealings and all of that, that people will make fun of you, like around this, and before you know it, like we stigmatize it. Before you know it, either you stop it or you leave the environment. But today we have a situation whereby people that do wrong things, people that get wealth from ill doing, we don't question all of this. We accommodate them. In fact, sorry to say, growing up, we know that the traditional institution is the custodians of morality. Today, it's still the case. We see people calling from nowhere, getting money from out of nowhere, and what the traditional rulers do is to confer titles on them. So the society isn't about people doing the right thing, earning a life. Before, if you are responsible in society, people respect you. But today, even if you are responsible, nobody cares. If you don't have money, money has become the level of responsibility people respect and value people given the society. Even in our own homes, in our family, the smallest person in the family that has money is the person that is well respected today. So you can see the problem is huge. It goes beyond economics. It goes beyond. It's about issues of moral, issues of the society being destroyed. A whole lot of things is working against us, all of this. So it isn't just about the government. We as people will have a lot to play. We have a role to play. But I don't know. It's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy. So sometimes you wonder.
My engineer, please, can you start rounding up in a minute, please? Sorry.
Yeah. So in essence, I feel, in all honesty, I think we've talked about the problems enough. We've talked and all. Now I think it's the time to sit down, look at it, how we can contribute in our own ways, you understand, of seeing that there are progresses and there are a well-sustained strategy that will bring about the end to these things. But like I said, it involves a whole lot. It's has to do with issues of moral, issues of lack of education, issues of lack of religious knowledge, negligence from the community, society, and like a whole lot. So I think I've said enough, and I don't know. It's just sorry, I'm sounding a bit emotional because it's painful. It's really painful.
No, we all understood. All understand. Sorry, sir. Thank you for speaking. Usman Abugi, you've been requesting for Mike, and Wazirti has been also requesting for Mike. Please, Mr. Abugi, I will give you just 2 minutes because we still have Mr. Abdulaziz here. He told us that he wanted to hear some speakers talk regarding the topic. So, Mr. Abugi, please, you have 2 minutes to just say what you want to say. Mr. Osman, are you with us? Okay, please, over to you, Abdul Inga.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I'm glad to be here. Good evening to you all.
Sorry to cut you. Please make sure you are speaking on the topic, please. Narrow it to the topic.
Okay.
Banditry in Niger State, please. 2 minutes.
Okay. Strictly. Thank you very much. Good evening to you all once again. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. Thank you. Actually, I would say the government have done enough on this issue of banditry, but they still need to do more because we are having some lapses in the sense that actually, let me just give you something in brief. I was at Kaga, one village like that, to Bambaku, I think Friday. So when I went there, then we had an intel that the bandits were coming. They were at Regi. If we actually, you know, the geographic location of that very place, they were at Regi. And that very Regi is just, let me say, like a boundary. A boundary there's between Niger State, Kaduna State, and Zamfara. So the whole of that very place is a bush. Is the totally a bush. When you hear about those all those places, it's typical bush. And this place, these bandits, they have routes that they do follow every time. So those routes they do follow every time. They do follow those routes successfully, easily, and they don't encounter any other pressure from any security forces. And I will say this: God bless our local vigilantes. God bless our local vigilantes. They are trying every day, every blessed day. The only village I can boast that these bandits have not entered in Rafi local government is Mikujeri, if you maybe you've heard of Mikujeri. All because of this local vigilantes. So what I'm trying to say here is that government needs to do enough. The security that are in place are not doing anything. You might have a situation whereby something will happen and then they might tell the security, but the security cannot move or they cannot engage. So the only thing is that they will just take cover for themselves and leave the neighboring villages or what have you. So after the bandit have done what they came to do, and then maybe you just see them, maybe they will just respond after everything has been done. Just stories. People don't live in their houses anymore. Things are getting worse every blessed day. Every blessed day. I want to that please. But in fact, imagine you not comfortable in your own home. I want you to feel that you're not comfortable in your own home. Please and please, the government needs to take more proactive measures. And one thing again, the government needs to have a stability with this traditional institution. I don't think they have this stability with them, in the sense that you have that, like some villages or some Fulani hamlets that are living around, but no one can tell you exactly who those people living there, what they do, or when did they even come. How comes? Those things are very, very scary. You will just be seeing them around, but you can't tell. In the sense that this time around self, you might see you have a next door neighbor, but you can't even maybe check or see who is he, how is he, where, and what does he do. Same thing we do. The traditional institution needs to be proactive also, not only the government. I don't mean the traditional institution needs to be pleased.
Please start rounding up. 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. So if we cannot come together and fight this thing can never end. We have to come together. We ourselves, the government, and the traditional institutions also. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contributions, Abdul. I want to pass the mic to Mr. Abdulaziz, but Anan Kastik said he wants to say something. I don't know if you are talking about, if you want to talk regarding the solution or the problem, but please, you have just few minutes, let's say 2, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Awal from Niger State, from Mina, from Ushishi local government actually, but I reside in Maiduguri now. I've been in the Northeast for the past 4 years. So while I am not an expert on security or banditry and terrorism, I do have first-hand experience or encounters with terrorism, so to say. I was in Dapchi when the Dapchi girls were abducted. I saw the Boko Haram. I luckily escaped that day. I've also lived 10 months in Biu, which is in southern Borno, where Boko Haram has made several attempts to listen. So, like Abdul Aziz said, we can use the situation in the Northeast as a template for problems that we may face later if banditry continues in Niger State, and also to look at where they provided solution, what has worked for them, or what is working for them, and see if we can adapt it in our own situation. Some of the problems that come about, especially in the Northeast, as I've noticed, is when you set up these IDP camps, multiples of them, there are hundreds of IDP camps in the Northeast. When you set them up and people keep getting displaced, occupying these camps are not safe havens for these people, for crying out loud. If you've been to an IDP camp, you know it's a horrific situation they are living in. No, they don't do anything. You have people growing up, women getting raped in IDP camps, children growing up without parental care or anything. And you have a lot of problems in the IDP camps. They just give that at an alarming rate. An IDP camp that has the capacity of maybe 200 is housing over 1,000 or 2,000. When you allow these areas keep getting displaced, these camps keep getting filled up beyond capacity, and it's not actually the solution. The solution is to limit this displacement as much as possible. You have to try as much as possible to prevent people from leaving their localities. I know it's not safe. I know it's dangerous for people. No one wants to stay where they want to be killed. But I tell you, some people prefer, look at the situation in Borno. Some people are willing to go back to their localities and die if that's because they know what they are facing within Maiduguri town, where they are IDP camps, where they are treated less than humans. But the problem is, if you keep allowing these people get displaced, these camps will not provide safe havens for them. Please and please. We should try as much as possible to limit displacement from these camps. The second issue is the issue of vigilante.
Sorry, I will not proceed. Can you start rounding now?
Yes,
please?
let me quickly round up by like what I've seen in the Northeast, especially in Maiduguri and in the where I've lived, is that it's very structured. Unlike what you have in Niger State, where you have vigilantes operating independently with no cohesion, with no form of, let me say, structure. This one in Maiduguri is civilian joint task force.
How did you know that? You've been away for 4 years. How did you know that?
No, from what you said that these vigilantes are run. You have multiple vigilante groups in different local governments.
No, we don't have multiple vigilante groups. They are all operating under one umbrella, which is the Ministry for Local Government and Internal Security.
Okay, yes, now I'm more enlightened. I assume they were operating independently. Then the issue of giving them guns, equipping them. From what we've seen here, I know it's possible. They do have good equipment. They are trained, and they work hand in hand with the military and police officers. It's not as if they are operating independently on their own, which leaves them exposed at the hands of very terrible human beings. Most of them have gained experience. I have interacted with a lot of them, and I know it's a very structured system. I do not think Niger State has such a structure on ground. You can incorporate their activities together with the military activities. So they run operations together with the militaries. This is what we've seen, and this is the only thing that has really helped in the Northeast. Although it's still not very successful, but it has helped a lot. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, let me brief you on this as well. Vigilantes in Niger State actually are complementing the conventional security. I think it's important that I make that clear. In most cases, when they go to operations, they go together with the military and the MOPOs. So it's not like there are a few times where, of course, they will do these operations alone because you have shortage a short number, a very minimum number of security forces like the military, the police, and sometimes they get withdrawn. Like I'm sure if you listen to me well, you
Yes,
must
I
have
did.
heard where I said that sometimes they call these guys off, leaving only the vigilantes to operate. So in cases like that, they don't have a choice. In the northeast, they have militaries that are based there completely. That's why we have also been agitating all along for a military base in Shiruru and Rafi. If you have a military base in Shiruru, you have a military base in Rafi, this will go a long way. But in a situation in 50 or 100 military men, after one or two operations, they again called off that they have another operation somewhere. There's nothing the state can do than to manage the vigilante.
The issue of equipping them, that's where
Sorry,
my major concern
Mr.
is.
Awal.
No, you don't. That is no. Let me make this clear. The governors do not have powers to procure arms for vigilante. They do not have the constitutional power. They don't have that constitutional right to procure arms for vigilantes, and that's why sometimes ago these arguments have been made. The El-Rufai talked about it, Lolo talked about it, even the Katsina governor talked about it. If you don't give them community policing, it's going to be difficult for them to do anything. If you don't localize the fight, bring the fight back home where the community should be empowered. The vigilantes are willing to work, but the governor cannot procure arms for this vigilante. And of course, you do not expect somebody who is carrying a pump action gun to fight an AK-47 weapon. It's not possible. That is their inefficiency. This is where the problem is.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just say one last thing. I believe if the government tries hard enough, because it is happening in the Northeast, I don't know whether they have a special waiver or not, but they procure arms for them, they have vehicles for them, they man stations for them. As in, these people are waiting care of under a system where they are even paid salary. I think the government should work hard enough on it, even if it is getting to waiver, it will be done.
How can the government work hard or no? You can only put pressure on the federal government. And this is what, if you're talking about procuring vehicles, we have in the last 5 years, the state government has procured over 300 vehicles for these people. Over 1,000 motorbikes for these security men, so that they can actually use in places where it's difficult for vehicles to pass. And all in that, we don't have a problem of some of these logistics. The problem is the law does not permit the governor to procure arms for vigilantes. That's the problem. And that's why you're saying, okay, if it's possible in the Northeast because you have the JTF or something, we don't have them here. And that's why they are requesting for community policing. That would give them the power to procure arms for these guys. Except you own the military, the Navy, the Air Force, there's hardly anything you can do that is going to be very effective. That's the problem.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Mr. Awal Makusidi. Mr. Abdulaziz, we have Abdul Baki here. I'm sure you, as a journalist, you have a question to throw at him. Please,
this one I said top you want to now. Abdulaziz, you want me to ask me question? You want me to kill you?
Sorry, sir. Abdulaziz, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. Actually, Becky is saying that I should ask him questions, and okay, well, I won't. Be rest assured. I rather emphasize some of the points I made earlier, and also because since he is like a government official in this conversation, maybe some of what we say will be taken up. I think we have a lot to learn from what has happened in other places, and we shouldn't miss that learning opportunity. If we, if a problem is new, we can do trial and error until we find the solution. But if something has been elsewhere. There have been similar instances, and then the experience of someone to learn from. I think we shouldn't miss the opportunity. But my main problem actually is the emphasis he kept giving about using the vigilante and how, of course, I know there is a challenge of the number, which is actually one of the major problems for the fight against insecurity in Nigeria, whether it is Boko Haram or bandit, because the Nigerian armed forces, as it is not the armed forces is just barely around 500,000 strong, and you have a very vast land, and as the chief army minister recently said, I think last week, that the chief of defense staff, that the military is in 36 states. In almost, initially it was set to be 34, but he was saying in all the states we have ongoing military operations. So that makes it difficult to spread the armed forces so thin that they can be really effective. And then, so of course, the one way around it, in as much as I'm not an advocate for state police, but I feel with this kind of challenge, state police is somehow inevitable, because when you have a security challenge like what is happening now in Niger State, and you don't have enough men to confront the challenge, then there is a serious problem. I am really not comfortable with the states emphasizing on use of vigilante, because no matter what, even though yes, in theory you say they move with the military or they move with the police, but at least they are armed and they operate independently and they can go to places on their own. Honestly, it is just like the Masai prescription of self-help. You just empower people who can be reckless. And as I pointed out, experiences from elsewhere show that it can be really deadly, it can boomerang and become a problem rather than a solution. So I will I give the example of Kaduna. Of course, even Kaduna has vigilante, but not as maybe a fighting force, so to speak, but as just like community. And but Kaduna is doing a very good job in terms of whether it is lobbying to have a good deployment of troops, but also not only as Abdulbaki said quite rightly, states shoulder the responsibility for federal forces. When I interviewed the Katsina Governor Masari in September, he made the same point. In fact, he was strongly making a case for state police, because as he said, there is no point states becoming the sole financier of the police and the military men in their state, while they are not in control of them. So I feel the best way around it is, since we can have state police tomorrow, but we can ensure that whether it is pressure or lobby, the state must insist that the best is sent to it to confront this problem. Yesterday, I was driving back to Abuja, and I saw special forces, convoys of special forces, military men in Kaduna, which is very good, because they are mainly used in the northeast. So the fact that maybe Kaduna put pressure to get them, it means Niger can also do the same. because the security forces are the special forces of the military is really well trained, and they have the experience of such battles, operating in a hard-reach places. Some of them even on bikes. So I would suggest that. Then secondly, but I still feel the humanitarian crisis needs a lot of attention, because it shouldn't be a double jeopardy for the people that is being sacked from their communities. Of course, as you said, there is nowhere like home. So, but when the home is not habitable, when they cannot stay in their houses, then they should be given some sort of they cannot be comfortable. I don't want to use the word comfortable, but at least some decent place that they can put their heads. But if somebody is displaced, he doesn't even know where to go, he doesn't have the food to eat, then it becomes traumatic, a serious problem. And that is when we talk about challenges of trauma and destitution, which can lead to other crimes, because some of these things is not only even about the persons, but it's also about implications for the larger society. If we allow these people to roam around and all that, it's a problem for the larger society. So I will, as I said, want to ask questions. I will leave it at the level of suggestions and based on my observations. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Abdulaziz. Even Wali said he has a question. Please, can you just in few seconds, please? It's getting late.
No problem. Thank you very much. My question goes to Abdulbaki. And first of all, I appreciate your input. At least I've learned of the government's efforts so far. But my only question is because you were so insistent on community policing, and I know that our current representatives, both in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, are all APC members, and I know that they have collaborated with the state governments when it comes to their political aspirations. So my simple question is, how come today they voted against state policing? If indeed, going by what you said, the state believes that community policing is the way to go forward, how come they did not collaborate? How come they did not lobby these people to actually vote for state policing as opposed to against state policing? It's contradictory. It means they are not. Anyway, let me just allow you answer the question. How come they voted against? Why didn't the states try to influence their votes? Because they definitely influence, they definitely collaborate and work together when it comes to their political aspirations. So how come today we saw something different? They literally voted against state policing. So what is the issue? The contradiction is glaring. So can you please clarify that for us?
Okay, let me start with Oga Blazis. On this humanitarian issue, I'm not. We really have issues around these IDPs. To be honest, and leaving politics out of it, I agree that we need to do more. But as a last check, most of the people that are displaced actually have been given places to stay. But whether they have been like the ones in Goda, I can testify that one they are doing well. The ones in Kontagora, about 18 of them are actually going back to their places already. But I will also find out where you the suggestion, and then I'll put forward this special request of special military, even though this evening we also saw troops of military people going towards Kagara axis. Well, I'll take this suggestion forward. Thank you very much, sir. And the person, Ibrahim, who asked about National Assembly members voting against Niger State Nation, are you talking about Niger State representatives? Do you know any? Can you say 1, 2, 3, 4 of them voted against? Because it's about majority there. Even all of them voted. All of them from Niger State voted in favor, and the rest of the people voted against. The majority will, of course, at the end of the day, carry the. So, which member and which senator voted against?
Literally all that voted from Niger State voted against. Yes, I agree that.
I don't have evidence to what you're saying, so I don't want to speak on something that I do not have evidence.
After the session, I'm going to
I don't have evidence on
after
what you're saying, so I don't really know. Because I know that Senator Sani Musa 313 has spoken glaringly in favor of police community.
He has spoken. He has spoken.
I don't know. When it was time to actually
act on it, we have.
That's what I'm saying. You're telling me something I don't know. I don't know.
That is
you don't expect me to respond to something that I don't know. I don't know whether these people voted against, because I know the one I know is God.
Because if it is
the one I know is
the odds to have
Musa 313 spoke in favor of community policing.
But when it came to the action itself, we have the record is there.
SMA voted in favor. SMA voted in favor, and these are the two outspoken members of representatives we have.
You said you don't know. You just said you don't know.
To speak about ERC.
You just said you do not.
I don't know the votes.
Now you're saying
I've not seen the votes.
But now you're saying
you said they voted for. I said I don't know if they voted for, but I know they have voted in favor.
I said they voted against.
You said they voted against. I said they have spoken in favor of it.
But
I don't know if they voted against.
That is the problem. The government ought to know, because if you agree that we need community policing, then it behoves on us to use all avenues to try and get state policing. And one way of that is
my brother, calm down. This thing don't work from National Assembly and state government. Don't work from.
They have collaborated in the past.
I am telling you. Listen, you're asking a question. Are you asking me a question, or you're explaining to me?
Both, really, because you already said you do not know, and then
I don't. So listen. If you ask me a question, allow me to answer.
Fine, sir. Please go ahead.
313 spoke in favor of community policing. Everybody knows that.
I agree.
SMA spoke in favor of community policing.
Sir.
Now you are coming. Listen now.
I'm listening.
313 spoke in favor of community policing. SMA spoke in favor of community policing. Now you are telling me that they voted against. I do not know if they voted against, because 313 spoke in favor of community policing more than 10 times in the House. And then SMA spoke in favor. In fact, SMA specifically made a letter requesting for it, because he and the governor had even a conversation where he wrote a letter to the state inviting the state to National Assembly. I can still remember that. But when you say they voted against, I don't know if they voted against, because this is something you're telling me.
List of the people who voted for, and then you're going to point out to me if they are.
Because I know in the National Assembly we have only two outspoken members, unfortunately so, which is SMA and 313, and these two people I know spoke in favor.
Yes,
and then you also have to know that whether they agree or not,
that is not the issue.
The majority still carry the vote.
No, yes, but at least let us.
Kaduna State government also spoke in favor of this. Senator Shehu Sani also spoke in favor of it. I don't know if he voted against, but they were also not granted, because this is at the end of the day. I speak of the presidency. So I don't know. I know they spoke in favor.
Mashallah, I agree with you 100%. They spoke in favor, but we have the list of the people who actually voted for it. It's one thing to speak, it's another thing to actually vote for it.
Well, the reality is, you have to understand that the National Assembly has its rules. And when they have the rules, I'll give you an example. When they were talking about Suleja naturalization, everybody was making a whole lot of noise. Sanitary 313 came and spoke about it. But of course, after meeting with the federal government, he also agreed that the mistake has already been made. It was not captured in the budget, except now that, of course, we have a SUCO coming from NNPC. There would have been nothing anybody would have done except next year, where they can work in the budget.
That's lack of proactiveness. You ought to know. You ought to. That's what I'm trying to say. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Ibrahim, Mr. Abdulbaki, please. Let me.
I really laughing. If you were speaking about banditry here, why are you laughing?
I wish I would enlighten him more, but he's not even
Ibrahim, you are getting emotional.
Please do not laugh.
Please do not
emotional. No, you ask a question.
But there's facts.
You ask a question. I am explaining something to you, but you are again arguing with me. You are arguing with me. Of course, what you are saying is absolutely laughing.
I'm sorry, guys.
You are not saying anything. No, hold on. Let me explain something for the sake of the followers, so that they don't also carry this House of Assembly members, National Assembly members' name and just go and tarnish, because it's not wrong. It's not right. I know SMA spoke in favor of it. 313 spoke in favor of it. Now, if somebody else come and say they spoke against, it's not making sense. You are saying they voted against. I wouldn't want to join issues.
I'm
313 has been very, very, very proactive to us. The SMA has been very proactive.
The state and lobbying for it to be included.
No. Allow him to speak. Sometimes some of these guys need to be enlightened. So allow him to speak.
It's already getting late.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't say some of these guys. You cannot enlighten me with due respect. Don't be disrespectful.
You asked me a question.
No, but please don't be condescending. I'm not some of these guys. I know what I'm saying. Why are you irrespectful? I'm not going to take that. Don't be disrespectful. There is fact they did not post for. That's it. Either you counter that or you.
If you have the fact that they did not vote,
it's there.
Hold on.
Constitution.
Hold on now. Guys, calm down. If you have facts that members do not vote for it, how are you blaming the state government for them not vote for?
I'm saying that they have collaborated in the past when it favored them regarding their political aspiration. How come we were not proactive enough to say, okay,
how is that the state government? How is that the state government's fault?
I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying why didn't you explore this medium? Because you keep yapping about.
I have told you now. Hold on. Now let me take you on. I have just told you that they spoke in favor, right?
I agree.
And you agree they spoke in favor.
But
which means the government. Hold on. No. Don't move. Let me explain.
What are you doing?
Hold on now. What are you? How is it state government's fault?
I'm not saying it's their fault, but how come they were not involved in the process?
So how am I supposed to answer the question for them?
You are part of them. What do you mean?
How am I part of the National Assembly?
No, not the National Assembly now.
So I'm
not collaborated in the past. We have seen their posters together. They have collaborated in a lot of things. So I'm saying, if indeed we have a
problem, they cannot have independent opinion.
I'm having you to speak with them. I'm going to speak with them.
They cannot have independent opinion.
They do, but did you try to?
So how are you now blaming the state government?
Are you saying you tried to lobby them?
How are you now blaming them to go? Did you not hear me when I said SMA even wrote a letter to the state government about the state police?
I wrote one myself. It's as useless as that of SMA. It was the
no.
It's the voting
no. SMA is working with a mandate. You are not. So you are two different people. SMA has a mandate of 3 local governments. You don't have any. So you can compare yourself.
His letter is as toothless as my own. But
you don't have mandate. SMA has a mandate.
Exactly. That is why I'm saying. Why didn't you influence his mandate, sir?
How do we influence his mandate when he has spoken in favor of it? If you voted against that, his opinion. So how am I supposed to answer the question for him? Allah. I'm supposed to answer the question for him. I'm supposed to answer the question for SMA.
No.
Okay, I'm supposed to answer for 313.
Yes or no? Did you try to influence?
Am I supposed to answer for 313?
On your part, did you try to influence their?
Am I supposed to answer for 313?
Did you try to influence them?
You're not personal.
Forget about
your
emotion.
problem is personal.
Focus,
I cannot help you at this
why
moment. I
have
can't
a
help you.
personal problem? Alhamdulillah, I'm doing.
I cannot help you.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to remove them from our speakers because they are both getting emotional. And we have Jimba Kakanda here. He's been here for quite like, let's say, an hour. I don't know if he can just speak for just 3, 4, or 5 minutes for us before we call it a day. Please, Mr. Jimba Kakanda, can you say something? I want to put you on, please.
Hello, Lucho. Please, before he comes online, please, I would like to raise a point, especially Abdulbaki, if he is listening, please. Me, my own is appeal. He has explained a lot about their own point of view from the government perspective. So maybe let me borrow Twitter's parlance here and plead that, okay, maybe me, I may have the cognitive capacity to understand the rationale behind some of the things he is saying. But then, what about the local man? The local man who has been pursued out of his own home. All these things that he is saying that, okay, government this, government cannot do this, government cannot that. To the man who has been victimized or who is a victim of this problem, all those things are just excuses. To him, all those things are just. So, regarding the humanitarian thing, currently in the entire Rafi local government, Kagara, the headquarters of Rafi local government, I am saying that, okay, since you said that the state government does not have influence over the affairs of the security official or things like that, but what about the general hospital? I believe that the general hospital is under the purview of the state government. Can you imagine an entire local government that has been ravaged by insecurity without a functional government general hospital? So please, this is something that the state government can do at least. I don't even want to go into education because in the entire Kagara, as I speak with you, there are only two or one, let me say just one government secondary school. The other ones, they are inactive. I don't even want to go into primary schools because for over
please come again. I didn't hear that, sir.
I said, please, I can understand maybe when you say that, okay, the state government does not have control over the police and the army. But what about the general hospital? I understand that it is under the purview of the state government. The state government can do something about it. The Kagara General Hospital is currently not functional. Our women are giving birth in their homes, which, it is not proper. And then not a lot of them can afford to go to private hospitals. So please, the state government, I'm making an appeal to you, please, to try and talk to your people that our state, our general hospital is not functional. So please, that is something that you can do. Maybe it is not much, but to us it means a lot. Please do something about the
something the state can do. Okay, let me respond to this, please. Understand this. As of 2015, are you listening?
Yes, I'm listening.
There is hardly any functional government institution in Kagara, in the whole of Rafi. I'm sure you know this.
Sir. Yes, sir.
From 2015, there is hardly any functional government institution in Rafi local government.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you know this, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, because the problems are too much, you inherited a dilapidated building. It will take you to fix it one after another. We fixed government secondary school, Tegina. I'm sure you've seen that one. That was completely renovated, was fenced, staff quarters built, principal's house rebuilt. I'm sure you've seen that because it's on the roadside.
Yes, sir.
You can also see that the primary healthcare in Yakila was also renovated and equipped. We also have the IBB preliminary school of preliminary studies in the same Kagara. I'm sure you know these things, right? Now, if you go to Tungan Baku, the feeder road there was done by ramp. So what I'm trying to say is that government can't do everything because every local government is in their demands of all these things as well. So
sir, I can understand from the angle you are coming from. But what I am saying is that we deserve to be given some sort of consideration.
Let me finish, sir. And government secondary school Kagara, where that unfortunate